Are you ready for today's hot take? Early wins are overrated. And that's something I have gleaned from my many, many years in podcasting and my many, many hours spent on the sidelines of my daughter's softball games. Hear me out. I am in no way what could be described as a sports person, in case you hadn't noticed, but witnessing the way in which my daughter has steadily improved her game kind of remarkably in just this season alone. And honestly, I'm not one of those parents who's like, oh, look at how perfect my little baby is. She needed the work and she put it in, and it shows. Showing up regularly, taking in what her coaches say. Let's just say I've learned that the best players aren't always the ones who are naturally gifted athletes. Where is this heavy-handed analogy going? Of course, podcasting. The podcasters who win aren't always the ones who launch with the biggest splash. They're often the ones who survive their own maybe inflated expectations, acknowledge their limitations, and can tolerate the uncomfortable feeling of being a beginner. Fittingly, today's guest hails from these overlapping worlds: sports and podcasting. She's a former D1 athlete turned entrepreneur and, as of a couple months ago, a podcaster. Meredith Hudson is the founder of Sideline Bags, aka SLB, and the host of the podcast Raised by Sports, a show made specifically for female college athletes with the intention of helping them see the path from their wins on the field or the court to wins they can make in their professional lives. Love the specificity of her audience, chef's kiss. We talk about entrepreneurship, personal branding, audience building, and what podcasts can do for founders like us. Beneath all those topics was this mindset that I feel in my bones, which the freaks and geeks style Courtney of youth would never have seen me bonding and agreeing so much with, let's face it, a jock. Meredith isn't particularly concerned with putting big numbers on the board right away. She knows those reps at the mic are crucial to staying in the game long enough for the lessons, the relationships, and the audience eventually to compound. I loved my conversation with Meredith for many reasons, but mainly because she helps show how you don't automatically become great just because it's game day. You become great because of everything that happened before it. All right, here's my conversation with Meredith Hudson. Thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm so grateful that we were introduced thanks to the power of LinkedIn, which does deserve a shout out. So, as my podcast is a podcast about podcasting, specifically what podcasts can do for business owners and entrepreneurs, which you are, and you recently launched a podcast. So you are in many ways where the people I work with will be once they've actually gotten their podcast baby out into the world in service to their brand, or so I assume. We'll talk more about how your podcast feeds your brand. But what made you decide that you needed to have a podcast as a complement to your business?
Well, because everyone has a podcast these days, Courtney. No, I'm just kidding. So I think of the podcast as separate from the brand that I'm building, where I have SLB, where I'm creating products that are helping female athletes. And at the same time, I'm also really putting myself out there and building my personal brand as the founder behind SLB as well. So there are a lot of stories that I want to share, that I want to tell, that aren't necessarily tied to the actual product that I'm creating, that are more tied to me as a person. And these stories that we're telling on Raised by Sports, the connection between the lessons that you learn on the field and the success that you then see later in life, or kind of the practicality of those lessons and putting them into practice, it didn't feel like a SLB thing to me. It more felt like a Meredith Hudson thing to me. And how can I share these conversations? And a podcast just felt like the most natural way to tell those stories. And I see it as less of a marketing channel for SLB, though of course we do talk about it, and I'm talking to female athletes, and I want to help educate the female athletes that I'm talking to from a product side. But for me, it's really just a way to accelerate a ton of relationships in this space. I've spent the last 20 years in corporate working for some amazing companies, working with some amazing women, but I have never had these types of conversations with them before. And now that I have a reason to, like, hey, I have a podcast, I'd love you to come on and specifically talk about this one thing. it's actually like opening me up to having all sorts of different types of conversations that I wasn't having when I was just in corporate. So I see it as this like relationship accelerator. Like it's one thing to say, and it's kind of like a pet peeve of mine when someone's like, hey, can I pick your brain? Like, can I just get on, but it's another thing entirely to say like, I'd love to learn from you. Do you want to come on my podcast and actually teach a ton of people? And I've just found that has really resonated. And I've only had 4 guests so far. We're a newbie, brand new podcast over here. But I've seen that as such a great way to attract some really talented women to get them to come on. Everyone, wants to share their story. And I think a podcast is such a great way to do that.
Yes, you nailed it. Like I'm sort of like, who told you this? Because I'm out there trying to tell people who are entrepreneurs and frustrated, like, oh, do I have to learn another TikTok dance, or do I have to write a newsletter every week? And yes, those things can happen too. But if you're not feeling it, guess what? A podcast, whether or not it ends up being a revenue driver for you, has value in the conversations you're having and the doors that it will open. I'm curious, like, when that light bulb went off for you, because you seem to have figured it out. And not everybody does see that. They're looking at the downloads. They're looking at, where can I see that this did something for me? You know that even just the act of recording an episode is valuable, right?
Oh, entirely. I mean, every time I record and get on with a guest, or even just the solo episode I did, I'm getting better every time. And actually, this is so funny because this so directly ties to sports, which is, I guess, kind of my thing. But the more you practice and the more reps you get, the better you become at it. And I've been dripping them out like once a week. And the numbers are not huge by any stretch of the imagination. But even just listening to myself week after week, be getting a little bit better and a little bit better, I'm like, oh my God, season 2 is going to be crazy. Like, we're going to be so much, like, I can just see the exponential growth that I've had just as an interviewer, as a listener. And that's one thing I've been able to take away from it just in a short period of time. The other thing too is, even though the downloads or listens, those things are going to be relatively small, being that I'm a very new podcaster, the guests that I have brought on have really been a distribution channel for me. So I have women who are coming on that have their own, unique audiences. They're in all different areas across the US. They're in all different types of industries. They have all different types of backgrounds. And when we post on social that, their episodes live, or we post on LinkedIn, those are, their audience have never met me before. So I'm seeing things like my social followers go up, my LinkedIn followers go up, and these things don't happen overnight. But for me, I see, the guests that I'm bringing on, not only am I able to amplify them, but they are distribution for me as well. And if you take that one step further, those are just more people that are going to be aware of SLB. And if these are amazing female athletes, chances are they have some amazing female athletes audiences as well. And obviously that is who my product is really catering towards.
I love that. And so how are you, because I know you're someone who's an athlete, former D1, big deal, right? Scores, points, wins, there's metrics up the yin yang. How do you, this early in the game, you mentioned downloads already. There must be something you're looking to as a signal that you're winning. So what is that signal?
That's so funny because I am the world's most competitive person. So that I am refreshing those numbers every time I set an episode live. However, something that I have learned over time, and I think this is something I also learned on the field but have put into practice later in life, and it's especially so important in entrepreneurship, is now I am very detached from those numbers and from the outcome right now. What's important for me right now is that all 5 of these episodes go up on the day that I say they will, and that I already have a slate of the next 5 guests that I'm going to record with. I do look at the numbers, but the numbers are like meaningless to me right now. What's most important for me is to just stay consistent. I think I saw some stat somewhere that most podcasts stop after the 7th episode, and I do not want to be a statistic like that. This is something that I'm building for the long term. When I look at a scoreboard for me and what success looks like for Raised by Sports, it's just that I have the next 5 episodes planned out and that they're going to go up on time. The numbers and the views and all of those things will come over time. I've been doing the same thing across my social channels as well, just building my own personal brand and building the SLB brand. And the most important thing is just consistency. Just keep posting, just get used to, telling your story, honing that story over time. So you'd be surprised to know I'm not looking at the numbers and thinking that it totally sucks right now, because the numbers are very low. What the most important thing and what success looks like for me is like, just keep recording.
For sure. And what you're talking about at the podcast, the stats about people not making it, it's 90% of people don't make it past episode 9 or even to episode 9.
Wow.
So that's a phenomenon known as pod fade. So like when you look at what a win is, it is still a number, right? It's just not the number that most people would consider. And your number is, I have beat by far most of the people. Once you call me, we will have a virtual champagne toast. If you make it past episode 9, that's winning. And I love that you can see that. And I hope other people can see that the numbers that you should look at in the beginning are not how many people have downloaded, but that you have achieved that, like you showed up that many times. You put it out there in the world that many times. So kudos to you. A thing I was going to say too is that because of the women angle of this and women in sports, women founders, I want you to know that women in podcasting, especially, I'm not sure how old you are, but not Gen Alpha podcasters, if there are any, have a higher rate of pod fade. So if you're motivated by beating the odds, you stick with it, girl, and that will be such a win. And it's part of my motivation. I want to ask you what role, you've said it's not about Sideline Bags, it's about building Meredith Hudson's brand. What would success look like of your brand growing? Like, what are the signals? Is Sideline Bags your ultimate, that's what you want to do and you want it to skyrocket, then you're invited to Shark Tank? Or what is it?
So, yes, on the business side, I feel like after 20 years of trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grow up, I finally found it. And SLB is I pinch myself on a daily basis that this is my job. And obviously it's incredibly hard to be a solo entrepreneur. Everything breaks all the time. And you're by yourself. However, I cannot believe the lives that I'm able to affect and change by creating a simple solution to something that I had an issue with and my daughters had an issue with. And, we just thought there's got to be a better way. So yes, on the business side, my dreams are huge. I want to be like the Container Store for female athletes. Like if you need something organized, I am going to make that product for you. And SLB is going to have all of that. What success looks like to me from my personal brand standpoint, and I think like the thread that connects the two is in building SLB and creating a business that is profitable and able to sustain itself and drive a certain amount of revenue, I cannot wait to take the things that I've learned in corporate and as an entrepreneur and really change and affect and help the next generation of female athletes do exactly what I did, which is follow their dreams, maybe start a company, maybe work in corporate, whatever they want to do. I cannot wait to invest in them. And I feel like by sharing my story of how I spent 20 years in corporate and then I had this idea and hey, look at this. I cannot believe this happened, but this really did. All I want to do is inspire someone else, a female athlete, to say, I could do that too. So that's why I'm so open in sharing everything that's happening to me on like the personal brand side. Obviously, I want to grow business in SLB because that enables me to invest in the next generation of female athletes. I just want them to know that anything is possible. And all of the reasons why I am successful or quasi-successful or getting to be successful with SLB is because of the lessons I learned on the field. So it all comes full circle. I want them to know that like they have the foundation to do this and the idea may come to them at 21 or 31 or 40 like it did for me. But it's important to bet on yourself and just believe in yourself. Just know you can do it. I did it. And like, I'm a sports mom of 2 teenage girls. I played sports in college. Like I'm no different than them. And I want to be an example for them that they can do it too.
I love that. Okay. So on the personal brand, and you mentioned social, but are there signs that pointed you to doing this since you are so early that a podcast can offer you as a founder with a personal brand that other media cannot?
Credibility. I think first and foremost, especially having guests on of certain stature who have certain titles at certain companies, I think it definitely adds that level of credibility that I am in the room with women like this. If I look at a lot of the entrepreneurs that are inspirational to me, that I sort of fangirl over, who have created amazing, whether it's a product-based business or a service-based business, a lot of them have podcasts. And I think it's something that I would love to, mimic's the wrong word, emulate, the things that they are doing and the conversations that they're having. So yes, I'm very early on to this, but in less than 2 years, Sideline or SLB crossed $1 million in revenue. So I'm really, really proud of that. And I think that starts to build this credibility of like, okay, I've made it this far. Let me just tell you what it took to get here. And like, I'm still learning what it takes to get, from 1 million to 2 million. And then from that to, 10 million and huge, I have huge goals beyond that. But once I crossed that threshold and I really started kind of carving out Meredith as a brand and not just SLB, it felt like a good time to start having these conversations.
Got it. And what does competition look like for you now as a podcaster? Has that shown up for you? Is there a competitive advantage or a way that you bring your love of competition to podcasting?
It's so funny because as a former female athlete, I am competitive in so many things, but I just feel like there's enough room for everyone to have these conversations. I don't feel competitive whatsoever. I listen to so many podcasts myself. Sometimes you want to hear this voice, you want to hear this voice, you're bouncing all around. So it has not really come up for me at all. I could never compare where I am in this process to someone else's like chapter 12, right? I'm like literally still in the middle of chapter 1 here. So I just take so much inspiration from other women who having their specific conversations or sharing different stories. I'm just another voice out there. And if folks want to listen to me, amazing. I do think I am speaking to a very different audience, a very niche down audience. And that's a lesson that I learned on the business side, is just how important it is to really understand who your audience is. And with SLB, if you look at my bags, if you didn't know they were for female athletes, you may just think it's like a great travel bag for when you need to pack a couple pairs of earrings and you don't want your necklaces to get tangled when you're traveling at all. There's nothing really specific about it for a female athlete. However, because I started marketing them and because I created them for female athletes, my 2 daughters, this was a solution that we needed, I made it very clear that they were to help female athletes through their chaos of their backpacks. I didn't just position it as like, I'm a bag for anyone who has a messy backpack. I think that would have been a little bit harder to for people to understand if it was for them. So because I had niched down and we're just for female athletes, and we will always, always create things just for female athletes, that has enabled me to really gain traction. And I think with podcasting, it's the same thing. I'm not really trying to be for every single female who's ever dreamed of starting a business. So great if you've never played sports and you find value in my podcast. Amazing. We welcome you with open arms. But I want to make it so clear that my audience is for female athletes who are in high school or college, who don't have a lot of time right now, who are playing sports, and they need to know that the things that they are learning right now are going to help them get a job and are going to help them get promoted, are going to help them get into boardrooms and get seats at tables that right now they're not even thinking about, because they're just thinking about, what are they going to have for lunch to fuel for practice, later today. So that's how I specifically think about my audience. And I don't know if there's anyone else out there who is targeting them in that way. When I think about competition, I'm like, I just think I'm in a world of my own because I'm just talking to one tiny little specific group. And if more women come into that world, amazing. Let's all help these girls achieve success past the field.
Right. And so your competition is less against who they're against, but against themselves being able to stick with it, right? Like, I'm sure this is a common axiom in sports, like you compete against yourself, your stamina, your ability to show up every time. Tell me about how you saw this opportunity and knew, because I'm obsessed with audience. So when I work with people, I say, with apologies to Simon Sinek, start with who, not why. So you clearly did that, A+, like good gold stars. How did that play into, because you talked to me about how they're strapped for time. You said you deliberately keep it short. One thing people come to me, one of the top questions is, how long should my episode be? You've clearly thought about that. Talk to me about how knowing your audience helped every other decision.
Well, I call them my girls because I have this brand ambassador program through SLB where I have these high school and college girls who are promoting our brand. They have SLBs and they are making videos and they're very much in this world. So I am talking to them all the time. Again, one of those pinch me things. I'm like, I can't believe my job is just to like hang out with some college girls and figure out like what they need to, do their job better. And their job right now is obviously being a student athlete. So that is, for the brand side of things, like what's just bringing me so much energy and who I'm really, really passionate about helping. So when I thought about from my personal brand side, having these conversations and in thinking about helping them, and I think this ties a little bit to your question too about like competition. My competition in creating this podcast and having these conversations isn't necessarily someone else coming in and being another voice in this space. My competition is actually the attention span of an 18-year-old girl who's in college who I know needs to know these lessons because I know it would help her, but she's got no time. So because I am so in tune with these girls and what they're living, because I'm talking to them every day in my brand ambassador program, but also, by the way, like I've been them. I played a Division I sport. I can, it was a long time ago, but I haven't forgotten. Those memories do not leave you. I've had that experience myself. And this was way before the days of podcasting. So I can't even imagine the overwhelm they must feel with all the information that they can be gleaning. And like, how do they even prioritize their time now with the information overload they have? I just didn't have any of that back, in 2005. So I know my audience really well because I was her. And I'm talking to her every day from my brand side. So when I was rolling out the podcast, there was never a doubt in my mind that this needed to be something you could listen to. They're like between 15 and 25 minutes long. If you're on 2x speed or 1.5x speed, it's even less than that. So if you're driving from your dorm or your apartment to practice, you can easily digest it. So just knowing her so well, I knew what I would have wanted. And the other thing too that I make sure to come across in every single episode is like there needs to be one tangible takeaway. Like I'm not out here just trying to tell a story and not actually connect the dots for these girls. I want to make sure they listen to it and they're like, oh, I learned that one thing. That was awesome. And we do a little writing exercise too in every episode where I kind of give a little prompt at the end, put this on a sticky note. If you saw my desk right now, I'm like a big sticky note person. Me too. And I think that's getting into that practice or just like writing something down. I want them to feel like they walk away from a short episode. They didn't give a ton of time, but they got a lot of value out of it and they actually took a takeaway. But I know her because I was her and I know they don't have a lot of time.
It sounds like in a way you, as an entrepreneurial woman, will do. You invented something that you thought that should have existed, but it didn't. So guess what? I guess you have to make it. And that's true of your bag and this podcast. Tell me what, if anything, you've heard from your audience about how they're receiving it, whether you've solicited literally, tell me how this is working for you, or comments or anything.
One of the most interesting things that's happened so far, I've gotten text messages from mom friends of mine who have also played in college who have listened to an episode and say, I can't wait to share this with Caroline. I can't wait for my daughter to hear this because these are really important lessons and no one's sharing these. And I totally agree with you. I resonate with this. So it's funny how someone like me, just a mom who played, maybe 10 or 20 years ago, is listening to the episode and wants to introduce her daughter to it. So that to me is like, that's not direct feedback from the female athletes, but knowing that an ex-female athlete just like me, someone who's kind of, washed up, has been, but has had, success in corporate, can look at it and say like, no, there's value in this. That's everything to me. So that has made me so happy.
It must feel so, I know that feeling too. When you've reached, my KPI or goal or winning is reaching one person and hearing from them and knowing my message landed. Like, that's like, okay, I can keep going. It's hitting. Love
exactly.
that. What are some surprises in terms of podcasting generally, how it's been received, what you've gotten back from it, anything that came up that maybe you didn't expect it? I mean, you're such a prepared person. It's so clear that you have your ish together, but what surprised you? Good, bad, ugly?
I think the first surprise was just how easy it was to get this launched. like I came up with a plan, and I have a business strategist that I work very closely with. So she and I kind of came up with like here's what the format would be. Like, let's start with 5. Let's start with a solo episode. Then you have your guest. So it was so great to have someone else really help me with kind of like just what the game plan is. Being a former athlete, obviously, I love a good game plan. Like, okay, tell me what, and a coach. Exactly. Tell me what I need to do and we'll get there. So, laying that out, it wasn't rocket science. Like, we're going to see how it went and have these conversations. But from the second that I said, okay, here's the plan, here's the idea, to actually executing, it's just emailing and asking some people if they'd like to come on. Thankfully, I just had, such amazing response to that. Everyone was like so excited, which made me so happy. But the technical execution of it was just so easy. So within, a week or so, I had all 5 episodes recorded.
Nice.
I had, I was improving each one, kind of the flow of it and what the questions I was going to ask were. It was important to me that there was some consistency in the questions that I was asking each guest. Some of the podcasts that I find a lot of value in always have kind of like the same opener or the same closer, just so you kind of get that consistency, what to expect out of it. So I wasn't drastically changing the conversation with everyone every time. They were bringing their own stories, but I was kind of keeping us on track. And I would say like, it was easy. We got it up. I don't love like how I looked in every single one. The background was different. I was trying to find where in my house would give me the best audio and video. And it's really hard to compare yourself to full-on sets that you see on some of the Dear Media productions. And I was like, well, one day I'll have that and that will be so nice. But today it is my kitchen, and like we'll blur something in the background. We'll be good. Most important is just like, the sound and the stories. So I guess the thing I was most surprised about was like, I can't believe I pulled this off, but we did it. And now I cannot wait to fill my next 5 spots and do my next 5 episodes. Like, it really was not that big of a lift to get it going.
I love that, because it's funny because I'm the other side of the coin. I feel like a lot of people don't realize that there is work to it. So you're a good antidote to I've just been like whining a lot lately, frankly, because as you said earlier, being a solopreneur, your IT, your marketing, your social media, your ops, so it's like, oh, and now I'm podcaster too. Like, so it's been a lot, right? But I love that you showed that, like, come up with a plan, decide you're going to do it, commit to it. It must be a sports thing, because I wasn't an athlete. That's why it's harder for me. The reps are hard.
No, but also I'm not doing this all alone. My business coach and I, we talk about everything from my personal brand on social to how I'm approaching a new color drop with my brand. So this was like another natural pillar for us to start discussing. So that was a 2-man job, coming up with what this would be. And then I have an editor. So all I had to do was record, and I download every episode. I threw them in a Google Drive, and someone who is way better at doing that. And by the way, when you do everything yourself, you have to outsource some things. It's the power of doing this. And she edited and did everything for me. And we went back and forth over email. And I think it's probably so easy for folks to find those type of resources today, just someone to do some quick podcast editing. So I didn't do that myself. All I did was come up with the plan, the concept, like come up with the questions, have the conversations, used software that I'm paying a very minimal fee for each month, and then send someone else the videos. By the way, that didn't break the bank either. And 5 episodes later, I have something that looks really professional, but I had a team that, I called in some experts as well. I didn't try to do it all myself.
I appreciate the transparency around that. And also like I'm supposedly the expert here, but you're giving me the advice that I give other people, which is like, I haven't yet. I'm hiring an editor basically as we speak, but like, it changes everything when you can just show up for your primary role, which is to be the voice of your brand and your thought leadership. So good reminder. Tell me about solo episodes real quick, because I think the avatar of what a podcast is, and like the value that you've talked about, is borrowing what I call OPP, other people's platforms, right? And other people's credibility. But did you know going into it you wanted to do a solo episode? Also, you're a team player. So how did that feel? You're a team sports person, and then there you are, solo. Were you like, how'd that go?
I didn't like it that much. But I felt like I actually want a do-over on my solo episode, but I will have plenty of time to do that. So I knew we needed like an intro or like a why. Like I wanted to tell my story of why Raised by Sports, why now, like what is the connection to what I'm building on the SLB side. And I thought the best way to do that was just to come out and tell my story. But I didn't really tell my story. If I listen back to it, I kind of just talk about like the origins of the podcast and why these conversations are important. And I think I gave like a couple examples of things that came up for me in corporate where I was able to in the moment say like, wow, I learned that playing field hockey. That is so crazy that is happening to me, that this is coming up right now in work. But I wish I had actually answered all the questions the way that I interview guests that I have on, and I wish it had the same flow, but I recorded it first because I wanted it to be that, you know, if you're here by Raised by Sports, let me tell you why I started this. Let me tell you a little bit more about me. But I think what I'm thinking in my head is I'm calling it a season, but I just kind of like the next chunk of episodes, I'll also kick off again by myself. And I want to get even deeper into more of the lessons that I personally learned and then have some more guests on too. So I think I will grow to love it. I just didn't love my first one because it was the first one I recorded. And I just felt like looking back, I'm like, oh, it's so cringe. But it's kind of like when I scroll back through my social media and I look at my posts from a year ago and I'm like, girl, why did you even post that? What? But you know what? It's all a process.
Well, I'm here to tell you, and again, this is something I do for a living. And I said, before you even shared this, I'm not just trying to make you feel better. You did right. So let me tell you, the fact that you didn't emphasize yourself so much at the start was ideal, because there are a lot of people who are coming to Meredith Hudson's podcast not knowing anything about her yet, not wanting, frankly, to know anything about her, but they want the value of something called Raised by Sports. That's what drew them in. And so you did the right thing by talking about the why of the podcast, the who it's supposed to speak to, and then getting a little taste of like why you're the person to be telling it. They don't know you yet. They don't care. I mean, I'm just being completely. So
I love that. Yeah.
By the time you get to season 2 or whatever you want to call it, here's my hot free advice, hot take, hot tip. Have someone interview you. Okay. So your next episode about Meredith will be someone interviewing you. You could do a solo, but it's called the reverse interview. And I say everyone should do it, and I should too. I haven't yet. I don't take my own advice. I'm about to. But all to say that you do want that. You do want them to get to know you, but you first have started to reel them in with the value you'll provide. And so now your next step is to, oh, who's this person that I love this show. I want to know more about her. But first you had to have them fall in love with the show. So you're doing it right, my friend.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. Yes, I love that. And I'm actually just thinking, I should have my daughter interview me. I think that would be so cool. I get a lot of great feedback on social anytime I have my girls in any of my content. I kind of started this series called Better Than Business School, where it's just showing them like they get to see like what it takes to actually build a business in their house every day, because I'm still building this out of my house. So maybe this will be a piece of that. I'll have Lulu interview me.
I love that. That's perfect. And don't get me wrong, my daughters, I've thought about commissioning them to be my social media because they know it better than I do. But my brand isn't about female athletes. Yours is, and you have someone right there that's going to be pretty cheap. You can pay them, but they probably.
She will charge me. She will charge me. Do not get me wrong. She will say, "Can I get something on Amazon?"
Or that Lululemon isn't going to pay for itself, right?
Yes.
Anyway,
yes.
All right. Well, we're going to do rapid fire before we let you go. All right.
Awesome.
So,
yeah.
What's the best decision you've made so far with your podcast?
To do it. I think to record it and just like upload it and not overthink it. Like the best decision I made was just to publish.
What is something you would recommend that new podcasters do not spend money on right away?
Podcast graphics. Canva is so easy. You can search podcast graphics. Literally, that's what I searched. I took some pictures, dragged them in. You look like a pro. No one cares what your graphics look like.
Audio or video or both? If you had to pick a mix or one or the other, what's your favorite?
Both. As a consumer, I listen to a ton of audio because I'm always walking my dogs or doing something. But as a podcast producer or creator, whatever I am, as a podcaster, I love the video because it makes amazing social clips, and that just helps me amplify the podcast across all my channels.
What is the most overrated, and I hope it's nothing I've told you, most overrated advice you've heard about podcasting?
That like you have to have it all figured out before you get started. I think you need to know what your voice is. I think you need to have a point of view and like know what stories you want to tell, but it does not have to be perfect. Like most things in life, just get started. Don't worry about, like I said, like having the perfect graphics, having the perfect equipment. We know right before I got on this, my microphone's not even working. So who knows if it was even working for my 5 episodes. But you know what? Good is better than perfect, because good and shipped is better than waiting for things to be perfect. So just get something up there and just start working with it and start having fun.
Absolutely. What is the first moment when you realized, oh, this podcast thing is working?
I think when I got that first text message back from a mom that I had just not spoken to in a while. It was kind of out of the blue, and she had tuned in, listened to the podcast. She said, I'm on my way home from work. I tuned in. I can't wait for my daughter to hear this. I think the lessons are important, and just getting that first piece of validation from, someone that wasn't in my immediate family or lived in my house. I just
obligated
said, okay.
to say.
Yes. I said, okay, like that felt really good to me that I had reached one person, and that totally validated it for me. If I just get one person every episode who finds value in it, I will keep doing this.
Love that. Podcasting this is a broad one, but podcasting is
so fun. I absolutely loved having these conversations. I've been a guest on other, like not many, but like enough podcasts now. I love the process of being either an active participant or the host. I love listening to podcasts. I think it's just such an amazing way to tell stories and to get to know people. And I'm just having fun doing it.
I love that. Thank you for bringing the fun, because I'm like the Debbie Downer a lot of time. My final question that I ask everyone is, if you had, and you've already had so many gems, but let's pretend if you had just one piece of advice for someone starting a podcast, especially a woman, we'll put that twist on it, what would you say?
Write down or type up what you want to say and what you want to get across. I think that was something that really helped me early on figure out what the flow would be and where I would be asking questions. I didn't structure it so tight where I typed up every single word I wanted to say, but I'm a very visual person, and it helped me to see what my intro was written out. It helped me to see like where I would, ask the first question to my guest, how I would segue between the different questions. I wasn't just guessing in any of that. I actually wrote it all out and like edited it, practiced it one time through, just recording on my phone, watched it back, and saw like where I could cut out and where I could save space. So I think that's something I would definitely recommend. It might seem tedious to like write down, like literally type it out, but it was so helpful to me. Obviously, you're not reading it like a teleprompter when you're on with a guest and you're actually doing that episode, but I found so much value in having a structure to what I was actually going to say. I was not just winging it when I was getting on there with the guests.
Why does that not surprise me from a D1 athlete, that maybe preparation and practice? I mean, yep, that's exactly right. That sounds right.
We watch game film. There's a reason you watch game film. I'm a big fan of recording things and watching it back. And I do a lot of videos too on my my social media. I'm constantly like, it's kind of maybe not the healthiest thing, just constantly being evaluating yourself on camera, but I want to be really good at it. I think it's going to help me grow my brand and certainly grow SLB. So it's here to stay. It's something I feel very passionate about, and so I want to be good at it. So you gotta practice. You gotta write it out, and just nail it. Just practice.
This is a word to all you athletes looking for your next chapter. I think you're ready for your podcast. If you're anything like Meredith, you're going to do it right, because you're doing it right, my friend. I'm so glad I could have you. Great job with your podcast. Keep doing it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was so much fun. Thank you for having me on.
I think we understand intellectually that nobody starts out being good at something, and that being good is something you earn through, sports term coming, reps. We applaud resilience and grit and all those other qualities that look great embroidered on a pillow. And yet, when it comes to ourselves, we often expect mastery by episode 3. I'll admit, as a non-athlete with some perceived and misperceived, is that a word, conceptions of what athletes are like, that they show up and they want to win no matter what, get that W. I should have known. Athletes know that you aren't great just because you showed up. You're great because you kept showing up, even when it was hard, even when you struck out. At the state-of-the-art studio run by Kit in Boise, Idaho, that I was in my last episode, I didn't hit record. I have been making podcasts for literal decades, and you would think that I would remember to do the absolute bare minimum, which is clicking that record button. In my defense, it is red whether you push it or not. Note to the folks at Descript, could you please maybe rework the color there? Because red equals recording on. I digress. I myself beat myself up when I notch an L, but here I am again, less than a week later, sitting here before you saying, do like Meredith. She isn't treating podcasting like a championship game she has to win immediately. She's treating it like something she needs to train for, learning from mistakes or areas in which she could grow, putting that to work so that her next episode, I'm certain it will be better than the one before it. If you're in the messy middle of your own podcasting journey, or more likely and more often the case, not starting because you yourself are used to being a winner, being someone who shows up and does fantastic work right out of the gate, I hope this conversation served as a reminder that there is no bonus prize for getting everything right the first time. The real prize is in sticking with it, overcoming the statistics of 90% of people not making it past episode 9, and all the people who are just sitting there swirling with their notes app of titles and ideas that they can never move forward and actually go for it on. If this resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. If there are topics or questions you would like to have me answer, one, you could send me a voice memo of your question or topic. It'd be like you're my own guest asking a question of me, and I would love to tackle it in a future episode. You can also just email it to me in text form if that's easier. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn in my DMs. I'm giving you too many CTAs, which once again, I'm breaking my own rules. Champions do not break their own rules, but I do want to hear from you about what you want to hear and see in this podcast. I am Courtney at soundsgreatstrategy.com. I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, this is Talking the Talk, a podcast about podcasting. Thanks for listening. Thanks for creating, and please keep doing both.